With the success of portable gaming PCs like the Aya Neo and the GPD, which by the way are a grand a pop, Valve, the maker of hardware as well as Big Daddy to the Steam launcher, has introduced their own portable gaming PC known as the Steam Deck. Not the Elgato Stream Deck, don't get confused, sister. In the past 3 days, it has been absolutely pandemonium in the gaming community and industry, and a lot of information has changed already. Articles are now null and void. News is no longer valid. The expected release date for 2 of the 3 models has changed. We're going to go over what is the Steam Deck, when is it available, and how much is it? What are the pros? What are the potential cons and ways to actually get around those issues? And even though they are completely different devices with 2 totally different demographics, we will of course touch a little bit on the Nintendo Switch OLED, which is a gaming console, versus the Steam Deck, which is a gaming PC. Let's get it. Alrighty guys, share my screen over here. I have a couple of articles pulled up and we're just going to jump right into it. So first of all, the Steam Deck, everything we know about Valve's new handheld gaming device. This is from 2 days ago from PC Gamer, and some of this information is already outdated or proven incorrect, but we're going to go ahead and point everything out as we know thus far. Valve is getting into the handheld gaming business. Yes, baby. The rumors were right. The Steam Deck is coming this year. Nope. The 64 gigabyte model, which was the only version that was coming at the end of 2021, is now pushed to Q2 of 2022. That's also a mid-22 for the 256 gigabyte NVMe model. And the top dog over here, Q3 of 2022. Now, these are subject to change. Obviously, when the manufacturer Valve gets their hands on silicon parts and whatnot to be able to produce these bad boys, that probably will fluctuate either to the left or, God forbid, to the right. So first of all, what is the Valve Steam Deck? Well, it's a portable gaming PC, not a console like the Nintendo Switch, a portable gaming PC. Granted, it is rather low spec with about a little under 2 teraflops of graphical power, but the fact that this is packed into a portable device, and it does have some really neat hardware, such as paddles on the back, and in addition to the analog sticks, they have touchpads, kind of like what you experience on the Steam controller, but with about 60% less latency, so that is very welcome. It's a handheld device that can run any game in your Steam library. Not exactly, guys. There's an article over here talking about out of the box, since it does run Steam operating system, which is a Linux-based OS. Basically, it has a program called Proton that basically allows Linux-based games, Windows-based games to run on this Linux-based operating system. However, Valve was very open about the fact that you can uninstall that operating system and install whatever you want. So you can plaster Windows 10 on there or whatever you want. You can even install additional game stores or launchers on there. Basically do whatever you can do on a gaming PC. So running modded games or whatever. Really cool. When is the Steam Deck set to release? So this article came out 2 days ago, which means this is old information. The articles run cold and the information is no longer accurate. We already know about the actual reserve dates right here. Again, all these tabs that I have open here will be linked in the description below for your perusing pleasure. What you do is you drop down a $5 deposit that does count towards the price of the actual PC. Now, the initial launch was a little bit hectic because as soon as it went live, the listing went live on their URL. There was a ton of bots and scripts of scalpers that were running VPNs, trying to order multiple from the same source, basically the same scalper. And that kind of caused, well, not kind of, it caused a lot of issues with actual consumers, gamers, trying to lock these in. Now it has smoothed out quite a bit to where you can literally come over here right now. All you need to do is log into your Steam account. I was able to lock in a 512 gigabyte model pretty easily. That doesn't mean that it'll be delivered to my door anytime soon, but that's okay. I've got other handhelds to keep me busy in the meantime. But some of the frustration that did happen during the early reservation phase were timeouts, error messages. Some people tried multiple times by hitting F5 or refresh, or, pulling down from the top of their screen to refresh it on their mobile phone. Just like you've probably seen with a lot of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X pre-orders. And basically what happens is the defense mechanisms of the site that you're trying to order from indeed think that you are a bot or a scalper and block you, which is fucking frustrating. And you get a notification that you've been trying to make a lot of purchases within the last few hours. Other users are starting to get a notification that their Steam accounts have been created too recently to reserve a Steam Deck because they're not a loyal Valve fan. However, you've had your Steam account for like 6 years and it's telling you just created one. That was a common issue. Luckily, I didn't run into that one. However, if you are getting those issues where it says you have a new account or too new of an account, that will be lifted and you'll be orderable July 18th. That is today. Sunday. So let's talk a little bit about the different models and price. So which model might you actually want to lock in? So for about $400, yes, that is $50 more than the Switch OLED and $100 more than the current Switch if you were to buy it brand new in box. Comes with a 64 gigabyte storage solution. That is eMMC memory, which is the slowest of the 3 models as far as memory is concerned. However, I do think that model will sell tremendously for a couple of reasons. A lot of people that buy this device are not going to be doing AAA gaming on it. They're probably going to be emulating retro games on it. They might be running a lot of little indie third-party games and whatnot, or they might want to dick around with some of their Steam library and whatnot, but probably not a lot of open world games and whatnot. If they do, that is where they're going to run into a slight wall of performance when it comes to the read and write or the transfer of data with that eMMC memory. Now, the 2 bigger brothers that come with a heftier price tag, the 256 and 512 gigabyte storage solution, they do run NVMe, which instead of about 400 megabytes a second of transfer, they can run about 3 to 4 gigabytes of data transfer a second, which will be enough to push AAA titles. Now, as far as storage expansion or additional storage solutions are concerned, you can pop in a micro SD. That's not a great option because even the flagship micro SDs don't have the best read and write speed. So if you are AAA gaming with something like an open world game that has a huge draw distance, big scope and scale, you're going to run into some issues with pop-in and stuff like that. But there are a couple of other options. You can actually plug in a USB external hard drive. That is not ideal because that kind of kills the portability of it, having a big USB brick hanging off the back of it. Not a big deal if you are using it in its docked configuration. Yes, it does have a dock, optional, separately sold dock that allows you to pop it onto a monitor or television. So other than a micro SD card or plugging in an external USB hard drive, there is no definitive information as to if there is an expandable NVMe slot. Yes, there was a slot in there. Gabe and the boys over there at Valve did say that. However, it has not been put out to the public if that thing is going to be firmware blocked or if it's going to be expandable or what. As of now, all the information that I've gathered from the more time researching this topic than I'd like to admit to you guys has all pointed to the fact that no, it won't. I've seen a lot of people dropping comments. It is expandable. Proof is in the pudding. I haven't been served any pudding. I'm hungry. I have my spoon out. I'm ready. Drop an article so I can actually eat the pudding, the proof pudding. You're literally pulling that information out of your anus. That information has not been available to the public yet as to if there is an actual internal expandable storage solution other than the micro SD, which has been covered. All right, now for the nitty gritty squeeze of titty specifications, because this is a gaming PC, so specs are important, guys. Now keep in mind that this is a $350 to $650 gaming PC, so don't expect tech specs that'll blow your titties back. This isn't an overclocked i9 and a 3090 or anything. This thing runs on an AMD APU, so that's interesting. It is a gaming PC, but it's running a proprietary APU, which is what consoles run. That is when a GPU and a CPU are binded together in one component called an APU. So it uses a very, very console-like hardware setup, even though it's a gaming PC. And it's proprietary, i.e. this has not been seen in any other device. So it is not modular. I've also seen that in the comments where people are like, you can swap out hardware. No, you cannot. Simply, sir, you're incorrect on that. It is not modular like a traditional gaming PC. It's an APU. It's not like you can just replace the GPU or the CPU or change out the RAM sticks or anything. So basically it's using a Zen 2 CPU and an RDNA 2 architecture for the GPU. The CPU is the equivalent of an AMD Ryzen 3000. So that is their entry-level CPU, which runs on 4 cores and 8 threads. That is okay. Not great, especially if you are going to be gaming AAA titles. Again, emulation or some older titles, not a big deal. But when you start pushing it, that CPU will flex a bit. Granted, it's a PC. You can overclock it, but I'd be careful with that because it's in a very small form factor case, so heating is going to be an issue. And voltage. But since it is running a Zen 2 and RDNA 2 architecture in the form of an APU, guess what that means? Baked in ray tracing, much like the modern consoles. Pretty sick. The RDNA 2 architecture refers to the graphical grunt, so basically think of it like the GPU on board, which has the horsepower of about 8 CUs or compute units for a total of 512 cores. Now that's not a massive amount when you consider the fact that the $300 budget banger Xbox Series S comes with 20 versus the 8 over here on this Steam Deck, so that's more than double on the Series S, but Series S isn't really portable. I mean, it is, you can throw it in a bag and travel with it, but she ain't got no screen on her. But the Series S is also targeting upscaled 1440 as where the Steam Deck is targeting 720p. At least that is definitely what you're going to be gaming at in its handheld configuration, considering that's what the monitor caps out at. Well, not 720, actually 800p, but Close enough. So again, the CPU is a Zen 2 4-core 8-thread. Now it is running on a base and boost clock style, with 2.4 gigahertz being the idle or the rest, basically 3.5 being when it is fully ramped up under full load. The GPU is that AMD RDNA 2, which runs on 8 compute units, which doesn't sound like a whole hell of a lot, but depending on the usage that a lot of gamers are going to be actually using this bad boy for, it might be just fine. 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, and it is fast at 55 manual transmission per sexual encounter, or MTS. Now, 16 gigabytes of RAM kind of is the sweet spot when it comes to a gaming PC, at least like the baseline of what you want. But that's a lot though, and fast RAM when you consider that it is a handheld device. Storage, we got the 64 gigabyte eMMC model and then 2 NVMe SSD versions. And it is said on the Valve website that it is faster memory, a faster NVMe on the 512. However, we haven't really been, again, served any proof pudding on that. It might be virtually the same read and write speed, and just the difference in storage, we don't really know that yet. As for the display, it is a 7-inch LCD, so not an OLED or anything like that. It is a 7-inch LCD, so the exact same size as the new Switch OLED at 7 inches. However, the Switch is going to be an OLED, which will have, you know, darker blacks, more vibrant colors, probably a little bit brighter with the maximum nits of brightness as well. But the resolution's higher over here, as the Switch is only going to cap out at 720p, the same as the current version Switch, as this is going to be 1280 by 800. And it does cap out at a maximum of 60 hertz. So in its portable version, you are going to be gaming at 800p, 60 frames per second. But when you are docking this bad boy or just simply plugging it in via USB-C and projecting it onto your monitor or your TV, then you will be able to get above that 60 hertz. That is where we're going to be able to really test the limitations of the hardware on board this portable gaming PC. Is when we break away from 800p 60 hertz, start trying to push, 1080p 120 hertz on a monitor, or even higher. The audio is 2 built-in stereo speakers that do not get distorted at maximum volume from the tester's notes. It does have a 3.5mm headphone jack for headphones, dual microphones on the front for connectivity, USB-C as well as Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, USB-C, and a DisplayPoint 1.4 connector. So that's great for connecting to your monitor. The battery is 40. This unit of measurement that I've never seen before. Generally batteries are in kilowatt hours, but the battery life, if we come down here, is only about 2 to 8 hours from a full charge, which is a huge deviation. 2 and 8, that's a big difference. But it depends on obviously the usage, what you're doing. If you're just watching some YouTube or Netflix, with the screen dimmed a little bit and the speaker down, you'll be able to squeeze a shitload of time out of it. But you are playing, for example, Portal 2 with max settings, you're getting about 4 hours out of it. Now the size, it's portable like a Nintendo Switch is, as in you can take it on the go, but you're going to be throwing it in a backpack, laptop bag, or a purse. You're not going to be putting it in any pockets. Why? It is almost a foot wide, 4.5 inches high, and about 1.8 inches deep. So not massive, but certainly not what you'd consider a portable console like a PSP or a Nintendo DS or something like that. And it weighs 1.47 pounds, so heavier than a Switch marginally. Now, what version should you get? Well, of course, PC Gamer is going to say, well, pop for the big dog, the 512. Well, that's $650. A lot of people can't afford that or don't feel comfortable buying a portable gaming PC that we're not really sure how it's going to perform for that amount of cash. So a lot of people are going for either the mid model. I've seen a lot of people lock that one in, or even the $400 version, which again, I would say is for a very specific niche of people. I would say people that are going to be emulating or doing some non-AAA gaming, then it's perfect for you. But if you are trying to really push the limitations of it and you want a full-blown PC-like experience, you're not going to want the eMMC memory. You're going to want probably the mid-tier model or the flagship. Now, another thing here, we do know that the onboard screen is 800p, 60 frames per second, but the brightness also isn't phenomenal. 400 nits of peak brightness, so if you are playing this in direct sunlight outdoors, it might not be the best, but again, we'll have to see, because I've seen low nit displays before that actually looked, well brighter than their specifications. But then again, I've also seen monitors and TVs that have a very high nits on their specification sheet, but then they're actually relatively dark. So we'll see, guys. So the Stream Deck's bigger than a Switch. Yep, a little bit, and heavier as well. Anything we should be concerned about? The battery life. And we don't know if it is a modular battery that you can swap out for a third-party battery with a higher milliamp hour, or if you're just going to be stuck with the onboard stock Valve battery. We do know, however, that it's not modular as far as swapping out the CPU, GPU, or RAM because it's like a console-like APU. Does the Steam Deck come with a dock? Yes, it does. It is sold separately. Like the Switch, there's a dock that'll allow you to connect it to your TV, a monitor. The USB-C style dock will provide a display port and HDMI output, so basically a lot of compatibility for different monitors and TVs. It'll also have an Ethernet adapter, which is great. The Switch OLED will have Ethernet, but the stock Switch that is out currently does not. And 3 USB inputs. Not sure if those are 2.0 or 3.0, but at least it'll be able to run your peripherals. So when you're docked, you plug in your mouse and keyboard. Have a traditional PC experience. Now, the dock is not included with the Steam Deck, and it hasn't been revealed how much the dock will cost or when it is actually available for order. Now, I have heard a couple of subscribers hint around, say that they hope that they locked in the 512 gigabyte model, and they hope that Valve will include the dock with it. That really depends on how much this bad boy is going to cost, because if it's a $100 dock or something, they're probably not going to include it. They should, because you're paying $650 for a PC, but we'll see, boys. So what are the pros of this bad boy? Well, it is going to run absolute laps around the Switch as far as performance is concerned in both its portable configuration as well as its docked mode as well, especially in docked, but in portable as well. Higher resolution, faster RAM, and more of it. It's just overall a little powerhouse. So what are the cons and how to get around them? I am going to do a separate, more in-depth video on this, but real quick, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Well, there's a little bit of compatibility with certain games on the Steam library not being able to run. How do you remedy that? Uninstall the Linux-based operating system and install Windows 10. Problem solved. Battery life. Play with it at home plugged in, or get some kind of a portable power bank, or if it is modular, maybe swap out the battery for an aftermarket higher milliamp hour version. Next up, the eMMC memory on board the 64 gigabyte model. If you care about AAA gaming, especially open worlds and games with insane texture packs and whatnot, then I would recommend just steering clear of the 64 gigabyte model and getting the mid-tier version. As far as storage space, all Valve has said is that you can expand it with a micro SD card. Now, you could also plug in a USB external hard drive. That's probably not the best for mobility or portability, but it's an option. Maybe just duct tape it to the back. And then finally, a lot of people are looking at the historical launches of all the Valve hardware. They've pretty much all been flops minus the Valve Index headset, their VR headset, which has done incredibly well. But their controller, their console, which never actually got off the ground, the Steam Link, there's one more that my brain is failing me on. Those haven't performed well. However, this is a much different product, not only in the whole development process, because they have been basically taking lessons learned from all of those failed attempts, which, you know, some people bought those units and were satisfied with them. So is it really a failure if 6 people out of potentially millions of clients were satisfied by it? But they've taken a ton of lessons learned from previous hardware launches, and it also seems like they have packed in a lot of horsepower under the hood of this little bad boy. So from a technological standpoint, it's impressive. It really is. Will I be getting one? Well, announcement day, I was reading articles, I was getting all hyped up, all juiced, and I was like, "Fuck, abso-freaking-lutely, don't ask me questions, just take my money," right? Then the second day, I started seeing all these articles popped up, warning the community, warning the gaming industry, warning the gaming community of potential issues and problems. Then late into last night, burning the midnight oil into this morning, I did a ton more research, finding out that a lot of those issues were basically easily remedied and not really issues because there's workarounds. And this is exciting hardware, even if it flops, even if it does do terrible. As of now, what we know now from the tech specs and the demos, the hands-on demo from IGN, it looks incredibly impressive. So my curiosity being piqued, me having terrible money management and just not being able to help myself when a new piece of tech gear comes out. Yes, I reserved the 512 gigabyte model. There's a lot of content I can shoot in that bad boy, testing the limitations of what it can do. Hey, can it crypto mine? Can it video edit? How does it perform gaming side by side against the Switch? Not to mention, I actually have a couple of individual, unique, personal uses for the Steam Deck. I almost called it the Stream Deck. The Steam Deck. Or I'll just call it the VSD, Valve Steam Deck. But I might be using it as a backup PC to do a little bit of productivity work around the house instead of getting a gaming laptop or something where I can do productivity work on the couch or in bed or whatever. That sounds like an STD or an STI or something you don't want. Like, she was fine, but she had the VDS. So I had to pack it up and leave. That is going to do it, guys. It was a long video, but there is timestamps down there. I know that's super valuable for me to tell you there's timestamps at the end of the video, but hey, there's timestamps down there in the description, as well as reflected on the timeline so you can bounce around. I'm excited to get my hands on this bad boy. There are some potential concerns. I wouldn't say they're red flags, they're yellow flags right now. And yellow flags can be remedied by simply burning them, by finding workarounds on the internet. which we've done. That is going to do it, guys. Stay locked into gamer heaven for a ton of content around the VDS, not the venereal disease secretions, but the other one. If you enjoyed the video, show the world by liking it. It helps it to get seen by more people, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Subscribe for more content like this. I cover a lot of news in the gaming community and industry, as well as tutorials helping you get set up streaming and YouTubing, and honest product reviews around the gaming space. I'll see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow because I upload daily. Peace.